In this video, let's dig a little deeper with string concatenation. I'll create a new file. I'm going to call this as strconcat.js. Now let's say I have a series of variables. I'll create a variable called as source, Bangalore, destination, Mysore, distance, 140 kilometers, and let's say duration is 3 hours 30 minutes. So I have these series of variables which is indicating information like the distance between Bangalore to Mysore. I want to go ahead and print out a string using these variable values. I want the output to appear something like this. I want the output to say the distance between Bangalore and Mysore is 140 kilometers and the time taken to travel is 3 hours 30 minutes. So basically I want to go ahead and build out a string that appears like this. The way we can do it is we learned that there is string concatenation where we can add variables which is holding string values. And to do so, I would do something like the distance between. So this is part of our string. And I need to now insert the value Bangalore, which is stored inside a variable called as source. So I could do something like the distance between space plus source plus, I'll continue with my strings now. I'm going to start with and once again, that's part of a string. I'll say and. Again, I have to end it. Then I need to display the destination, which is Mysore. But of course, I don't want to type Mysore here. I want to use the variable value. Because if I just type it, it is equal to me just typing out the entire string. I don't want to hard code it, but I want to utilize the values within our variables. I'll say destination. We continue with our string is, again, we end our string, use the plus operator, and then I'll use distance. Again, I have to use the plus operator, and then I have to give a space for adding kilometers, and the time taken to travel is, I have to now use the variable called as duration, is equal to duration. So as you can see here, when you're building out a large string from values from a variable, we need to be like extremely careful and conscious on how to do so. In fact, it is an incomplete statement. I also want a full stop towards the end. So let's put a plus and a dot. Now this is how you basically go ahead and concat strings in JavaScript. You need to keep in mind this is how we were doing in ES5. Can we continue to do the same? Absolutely yes. But JavaScript provides us a new feature in ES6. Like how you were seeing the difference between, we could have done something with var, but we went on to learn about let and const. Similarly, if I have to perform complex string concatenation, I can still continue to use the plus operator and build it out. Or we can use a new feature that JavaScript provides. It's called as the template literal. Let me show you how this works. I'll start off with console.log. Instead of using a single quote when you're doing string concatenation for building out a complex set of strings, even for a simple concatenation also I can use it, but it's primarily more useful when you have a very large string that you're building with different variables. So what we'll use is we'll use something called as a backtick. Yeah, you heard me right. It's called as a backtick. Now you might be wondering like, where is this particular character? Now this is the character which is there right next to the number 1 on your keyboard. Now keep in mind, this is not a single quote. It is a backtick. It's the character right next to number 1 on your keyboard on the top left corner. How does this work? I can start building my string. I'll say the distance between. Now what I want is within the string, I want to somehow use this variable called a source. And if I just use source, it's going to treat it as plain string. But this is not string, but I want to parse this variable and have the value inside that variable. I want to use that value here. So what is the syntax of template literal is? You start off with backtick. Wherever in your string, when you want to use a JavaScript variable or use a JavaScript expression, like maybe call a function or invoke a method, you can go ahead and use an opening and a closing flower bracket. You can use a dollar sign, and then you can use an opening and a closing flower brackets. And inside this, I can now use my variable name. Now, the big reason that I prefer using template literal over string concatenation is, you see, every time we were building out our string, we had to stop our string, use the variable, continue our string. And the biggest challenge also happened to be with respect to formatting. Sometimes I might have missed out a space, or I might have added a new space, or after and I might not have a space. These are typical challenges that we would face. But while we are using template literal, we do not have to worry about formatting because we are never leaving that particular single quotes. We are never leaving that particular backtick. Let me show you what's going to happen now. When I run the code, I should run node str concat.js. So you can see here, this is what we had built while we are working with ES5 string concatenation using the plus operator. Here we have started to use our template literal. And you can see that the code is already much more legible. And then I can just continue to build out my string, right? I don't have to worry about my formatting. I just give a space and I can say and dollar flower brackets destination. Keep in mind, it's a part of the syntax. If you do not do it, you do not get the output. Now, what if I don't use backtick and I use a single quote? Can we use it? Yes, it will not throw you an error. It's just that it's going to be treated as your regular strings. It's not going to do its magic of parsing the variable value. Let's come back. I'll move it back to keeping it as backticks. And while I'm writing this code, I can actually start phrasing that particular sentence in my mind. I can say the distance between, source is Bangalore and destination is Mysore. I can just go on to refer to the variable distance, give a space, do a kilometers, and the time taken to travel is, I just put dollar flower brackets, duration, and I can get really fancy here by putting a full stop. You can see that I'm able to build out the same string in a much more convenient manner. Always keep in mind, whenever something new is being introduced in a programming language, they are addressing a certain pain point that would have been there.